Hispanics are expected to be the largest minority voting bloc in this election and could help determine the outcome of the race, especially in states like Florida.
A Telemundo poll released Thursday shows a narrow 5-point lead for Biden, 48 to 43%, with a 4.5% margin of error. Now, joining us now, Dr. Eduardo Gamarra, professor of political science in the Department of Politics and International Relations at FIU. Dr. Gamarra, thank you so much for being with us. Now, as that poll suggests, the Hispanic vote could go in either direction. What are the messages that are resonating right now for both campaigns?
Well, interesting, as your guests in the previous segment were saying, it appears that the Republicans figured out a message that resonates very strongly, particularly with three groups, Nicaraguans, Cubans, and Venezuelans. Three very significant groups in South Dade in particular. So that's probably the most important message that's resonated, this idea that the Democrats are socialists, and that the Democrats not only are supporting those socialist regimes or those dictatorships in Latin America, but that they're also involved in bringing socialism to the United States. That has moved the electorate, particularly here in our county. It may not be true. It's not true, but it has worked, and it's been very effective in swaying voters.
So it appears that there's a large segment of voters in South Florida who may have come from Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and they look at Joe Biden, 70-year-old Joe Biden, with a long track record in the Senate. They see a socialist. Do you think that's why he's underperforming compared to what Hillary Clinton did in 2016 among Hispanics?
Well, I think there are reasons that are a little bit more complex. I think that, and I always mention three reasons. One, the fact that the Republicans really have done their work here. They came here and started working this community immediately after President Trump arrived in office in January of 2017. Secondly, they paid very close attention to what was going on in the Democratic Party. The Democrats had a very complex and long primary, which essentially divided the Democratic Party between those who are progressives and even some who admit to being so-called democratic socialists. And that simply, confirmed the message that the Republicans were putting forth. And then the third thing, I think, is that the Democrats in some measure have taken for granted some of these communities. They really haven't spent much time down here and made it up. Tried to make it up, at least in the last 6 to 7 months. So they came late, they started late, they didn't pay particular attention to these communities, and in the end, I think they were unable to develop the kind of ground game that the Republicans have developed very early on. And I think, that's in large measure what the difference is, especially here in this county.
When it comes to those personal and family histories with socialism and communism being very traumatic for many Hispanic voters here in South Florida. Now, the Trump campaign has really been zeroing in on that theme, using it to its advantage. But let's talk about the generational divide. Does it work as much with young Hispanic voters here in South Florida?
No, I think we have seen a generational divide, but it's very interesting. Our colleague at FIU, Guillermo Grenier, published the FIU Cuba poll a couple of weeks ago, and it's quite surprising. The generational divide doesn't seem as pronounced as it was in the past. And even, one of the most interesting things about that survey is that look at some of the figures. In 2016, only 34% of Miami-Dade Cubans were in favor of continuing the embargo on Cuba. Today, 60% believe that the embargo should be continued. So there's been this monumental shift in public opinion in certain groups. It looks like there's about a 10% shift of Cuban Americans who were identifying themselves as Democrats, who have now shifted into or have returned to the Republican Party. And if you look at that movement, In my polls in particular, we've seen a movement of about between 5 and 8% among other groups, Colombians, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, and so on. And that's the difference. I think that's what accounts for that shift that you see in the Telemundo poll.
Okay. Professor Gamarra, thank you very much for joining us.
We'll be right back.
Thank you. My pleasure.